for Sarah Maguire. Before we actually begin the formal celebration, I'll ask you to be seated, and Liam will come up and do a eulogy and introduce the second one, please.
I'm going to introduce the first one, actually, Father, and I'm going to go last. So, Kira Maguire, Mike's daughter, Kira, will start us off. Where do they go, Father? Yeah. Yeah, it is.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Sorry. Thank you for joining us today to celebrate the life of Sarah Jane Maguire. You know, she went by many names. For Ryan and I, it was Nana. For many of you, it was Sam or Samson, Togo, Sadie, Sarah, aunt, cousin, sister, friend. Whatever name she went by with you, you were certain to meet the kind, loving, thoughtful woman that she was. A woman who had a special name for all of us. She was an incredibly inspired, tenacious woman. When she lost her husband Patrick 30 years ago, she continued to live a vibrant life. She took up all her dancing. She continued in her acting group with her Spanish lessons. She continued painting. She wrote poems, and she was offering a love story called Bode and Dell. She started it many years ago, and she didn't get to finish it. But that's okay. For Nana, it wasn't about the ending. It was about the journey in between. She kept a rich life with her sons and their families. Every year until she couldn't travel anymore, she would join my family and I and go to her favorite place, Algonquin. We'd walk the sandy beaches and stand in the water, feel the warm waves lap against our bodies. She'd sit with Mama's and I, building sandcastles, investigating sea creatures, whatever we were doing. Listening to us talk about God knows what, for God knows how long. Unbeknownst to us at the time, these would be some of our fondest memories, things we took for granted, maybe. Many of you know that Nana also had a routine. I hope this is a little bit of a funny story to lighten the mood a little. But Nana occasionally liked to have a drink. What I mean by occasionally is, I mean every morning until every night. A little bit of wine. So, you know, many years ago, a couple years ago, when she started on blood thinners, I think we all looked to ourselves and thought, oh no, what's going to happen? We thought, well, is the wine doing the trick? The alcohol's a blood thinner. But she took it in stride. So when she was told that she had to reduce her little wine, well, we really felt for her. And this was not a decision she took lightly either. But in the end, that's the type of woman Nana was. She was quiet, she was eclectic, she was considerate and thoughtful. And she did what she kind of wanted, to give herself life's simple joys. Nana spoke many times of wanting to move to an old farmhouse that was secluded and warm, and it was a constant state of winter. She would fantasize about big fluffy mounds of snow and big snowflakes falling. She would fantasize that there would be a sunroom that she could paint and write in solitude. In her later years, she longed more and more for that place. And I think it reminded her of a childhood in the country and the quiet comfort of winter. I know that on August 28th, when God took her in the palm of his hand, that he brought her right there. And I know that she's sitting here with us in front of the fire, and the big snowflakes falling, and she's sipping her wine. As today goes on, I hope we can all share our own memories with Nana. Some quirky stories, the loving relationships she created, maybe some of your favorite memories together. And yeah, just please to remember each other and us as a tribute and a testament to the woman that was Sarah Jane Maguire. Angels surround you.
Awesome, Kira. Jack Payne, son of John, is going to come up and say a few words. Let him explain it. I believe they're his father's, which is sister John. Brother. Or, excuse me, brother. Excuse me. Jack, please.
Told myself I wouldn't cry. My dad wrote this. As you can see, you can't really make it up here, but I'll do the best I can to express his thoughts. My sister Sadie was the fourth of the 6 Payne girls. I was her only brother and the youngest. We loved and were very proud of our parents, John Sonny Payne and Veronica McLaughlin. Sadie was baptized Sarah Jane Payne, named for Dad's sister Sarah. Sadie to me, and always will be. We grew up in Stone, Quebec, a beautiful village in a valley surrounded by mountains. It was idyllic to us and continues to be. Our parents were salt-of-the-earth farmers, four-corner Celtic descent, and very religious. They instilled a strong sense of family in all of us. Our first schooling took place at the convent school, the nuns. We're mostly French Canadian. Sister St. Joseph was the exception. She was bilingual and from Hearst, Ontario. Our early education took place in our classroom. For half the day we had English, the other half day was taught in French while we did homework. And we learned French by osmosis in that environment. It was a great way to become bilingual. Our secondary education took place in Quebec City. Sadie and Maureen went to O'Sullivan College. Margaret, Loretta, and Rosemary went to St. Leonard's. Helen stayed home and cared for Mom and Dad. I went to St. Patrick's High School. We all traveled by the only bus of that era in Stone. One bus in the morning for everyone, two in the evening, a 1-hour trip each way. And it was always very eventful with a mixture of workers and students, and we sang all of these hits. We told jokes, established friendships, there were shenanigans. We coped with the transportation breakdowns and weather. One of the regular passengers was Marcel Chouinard. He was the choir director, and many of the passengers joined the church choir as a result. Sister Sadie had a spectacular solo singing voice. Sister Maureen did excellent harmony. Helen and Margaret were in the main choir, followed by Rosemary and me when I graduated from altar boy after the passes. Sadie was one of a group of very active friends from Stone. Choir activities included summer stock theater with profits going to the church, fishing trips, swimming, dancing, hiking, all rented out a very busy adolescence. Sadie's early jobs were at the Price building in Quebec in St. Anne de Beaupré. Along the way, her popularity resulted in a lot of boyfriends. In Stoneham in the early 50s, technical men from General Electric and Mecron Engineering came and they discovered painted girls. A steady stream came to our home, all we were in favor. Lifelong friendships and partnerships developed. George Sliwa, the McNally brothers, Ozzie Finley, Bill McAndrews, Albert McFarlane, and then Patrick and Noel Maguire. George married Sister Margaret, and Pat won Sadie's heart. And they married on July 12th, 1958, in Stoneham. 3 boys resulted: Liam, Michael, Sean. The family moved to the Carls Road. And the boys grew up in that rural environment and never left the region. As time rolled on, Sadie developed her other skills, a love of oil painting. She renewed her interest in acting and creative writing and ballroom dancing. She excelled at all. I think they call that being a quadruple threat. Throughout the years, our 2 families became very close. Visiting each other's homes, celebrating holidays and the festivals. These visits were always filled with music and laughter, and I shall never forget them. She was a very lovable sister. Thanks for writing that down.
Sean's wife, Gail, would like to offer up a couple of words as well. Thanks for bearing with us, everybody. You all right, Bob?
No problem.
Okay.
Hello, everybody. I met Sadie for the first time in Montreal it was the summer of 1962. Liam and Michael were still young fellows, and boy, were they wild, but anyhow. Sean wasn't born yet. And Sadie took me under her wing. She became my godmother when I became a Roman Catholic. She and Pat became my godparents, and she was also, they were also godparents to our daughter Bridget. And our granddaughter Sarah, named after Sadie. I was promising myself that I would mention to you all that Sadie's right here with us. I can feel her every second. Now, she wasn't all perfect in every way, I want to point out, but sometimes Sadie and I were pretty wild. We'd get in the car and bugger off, pardon my language. When we had enough of the men and the kids, we'd go and shop in Manotick. And I remember one time I was shopping in the, no, I won't tell that story. She was a great friend to me and a great friend to her brother and to her sisters. And it was my privilege to know her. It just shows how smart I was to marry into that family.
Okay. I wrote down a couple notes. I may or may not use them, but first time on a microphone. Yeah, a couple things, a little housekeeping. First of all, Father Joe, thank you so much for being here. He did my dad's funeral 30 years ago, so which was Friday, December 8th. But we're not that far off. A couple months from being 30 years to the day, and I feel very fortunate to have that link with you again. You know, Father John wasn't able, and he said we were going to ask that you would at least be able to participate in some way, shape, or form. So thrilled to have you here. Thrilled to be at St. Leonard's beside the greatest elementary school ever, St. Leonard's Elementary. And there's a bunch of former students here, and anybody who's a non-student, I'm sure I've bored you to tears with how great we were back in the day. But funny, I want to thank Kira and Jack for reading John's notes, and Gail. Is Rosie here? No? No, okay. All right. Just the effort they made to come here, Alex driving, Jack, Justine, anybody who came any distances, you're all taking time out of your day to honor staff. Thank you so much. It means a ton to the Maguires, all of us. We really appreciate it. And Kira mentioned the names. I want to just give just a quick, well, probably none of this is going to be quick, but Saz names. So when, I don't remember, none of us remember any life without our mother, but when we grew up, we had to call our mom Mama. And I never thought anything, just figured everybody did. And until you get to school and find out you have to make friends, and they call their mommy or mom or some other variation. And then we got 8 or 10 and 12 years old, and Mama became Ma. And then I remember being 11 or 12, so the early 70s, saying to Dad, like, everybody else calls their mom Mummy or Mom. And he said, it's too English, son. It's too English. You gotta stay the Irish. And, all right, Dad. So then we were visiting Stone one time, and I think it was Rosie. That's why I asked if she was here, because she called Sad. I probably had heard it before, but I was too young. And it just stuck with me, and I said, geez, is that your nickname for her or something? No, that's what my dad called her, and it stuck with me right away. And from that moment on, for me, she was Sad. And like Kira said, there was some variations on that as well. Our nicknames, Mike and Sean and I, for each other, I 100% cannot mention here. But they were befitting of the time of young boys trying to be as absolutely rude and ignorant to each other as we could. And our mother kind of got caught up in that a little bit. You know, it wasn't that it was crazy or anything, but it was alliterations and play on words, and she became Sad, and became Sagabo, and it became Bo, as Kira said. I think you mostly called her that, Spike. I think pretty much. I called her Sad. Sean, it became Mama. Bonjour, Mama, right? That was his intro to her for the last probably 25, 30 years. And that's just a little thing about her name. We're going to the Legion after, so if you can make it, please come. We got tons of food, the bar will be there, and I'll be hitting it hard. I feel that so many of you have been, this social media can be such a cesspool, but so many of you have been on the journey with me these last 4+ years. What a ride. I mean, moved here 3 times, the doctor's appointments, the hospitals, you were with me. That's the bottom line, is that so many of you took this journey with me. So many people, after she passed, and I put the post up a couple days later, and then since then, even today, so many of you, or those that came and left, said they love the notes and they love the updates. I sure didn't mean to flood timelines, but it started innocently, and then it became a thing, right? And then because, I kept writing her off. It's like the header, Kevin Terry said she's on the verge of death, and next week she's going to be playing ball hockey with us. Like, that was one of the funniest lines, but, she had a UTI. I never even heard of it before. We didn't know. Me, Mike, and Sean are hovering over her, thinking that she's got 24 hours to live. And so we're calling, I said, got to call a priest. Father John came out, and he moved mountains to come out and give her last rites. I said, no, you have to get her now. She's got hours to live. And he administered last rites, and we're emotional, and Jen came, the grandkids came, Liz came, people were coming. And then, I actually laid beside her that night in bed. And the next morning, she had color in her face again. What's going on? And then she was sitting up, said, I want to go downstairs. And she wants to die on the couch. She doesn't want to die in the bed. I brought her downstairs, and I said, what can I get you, Sax? I'd really like a cold beer. It was like 9:45 in the morning. And I said, I can't let anybody drink alone, so we had a talk at 10 in the morning, and I said, what the heck is going on? And we finally got a doctor over and said, he's not dying. And UTI. I said, what's a UTI? that started the journey, and then, that one was a farce, but the other ones were pretty serious. Like, she had COVID and pneumonia back to back in Quebec City. She was hospitalized for 36 days. The doctor said she's not going to make it. Told me a couple times. Lise and Barb, no, they were in there. They're going to get all gowned up, had the 16 layers on to go in there. You see your mother in there. Oh, that was actually the hardest. It really was. I mean, being with her a couple weeks ago when she took her final breath was peaceful. Being in there when it looked like she was going down and hundreds of miles from at least where I was from, that was tough. To drive away from that was the absolute toughest thing to do. Not to be with her a couple of weeks ago and I told the funeral director at Capitol, I'm not going to be selfish. I'm not going to be one of these guys who's going to stand up here and say, God, I wish we had another week, another month, another year. No, you know why? Because her body had said enough. Her body had said enough. That heart valve issue that was diagnosed in February of 2022, they said would eventually get her. It did. They just said then it could be a week, a month, a year. Well, she lived 3. So, what a bonus. And so many good times. And you'd think, oh, it was a nightmare going down there to Quebec City every year. No, or that whole year, every month. Absolutely not. Yeah, there was a couple of harrowing drives with the weather, but with Lise and Barb and Gary and Andrew Craig. When I say Lise and Barb, I mean their partners as well and their families. They took me. I had 3 nights, 4-day stay, and it was absolutely the best, really. And I turned it into a party, obviously. And I took Sarah out every day. She came out with me every day. I'd pick her up at 11. We'd be lunch somewhere at noon, ripping around the city or up the Stone or whatever. And then, remember Barb, where are you? Remember we ended up, we went to Rosie's and Sarah said, well, is Barb still working? I don't know, text her at the ski center. We're coming up for a drink. And put her by the fire, and like Kira said, a big glass of wine, and then, you want to go back to the home outside? No, let's stop at the bars and have a nightcap. Right. I love this woman. And we did that. So, she was at the Carlton Lodge, and look, the Carlton Lodge was phenomenal, but Sab wasn't ready for that at that time. She was in there 133 days. She went in on May 18th. I was in for 125 of them. She hated it for 134. So she wanted to come out. I moved her. Where do you want to go? So where do you want to go? I want to go to Quebec City. I want to live with Maureen. Okay. Well, so Barb and Lise and I roll up our sleeves and try. Believe me, work involved. I don't regret 1 second of it, but make no mistake. It was a journey and a half that finally culminated there last August 28th. I made some other notes, but I think the only other thing I want to say is, and Kira touched on it, and John, you did too in your note about, or Gail maybe more importantly, about she was, everybody's mothers are phenomenal, let's be honest. Mothers are the most incredible thing. Childbirth is the most incredible thing. And I have so much respect for everybody's mothers, and some of you are in here with your mothers have passed. I was at your services, and I know that, and so I went through this with Dad, but it was 30 years ago. But Sarah had a different, I really think this, I'm biased of course, but she had a different level of empathy and compassion and kindness. I always said, I could kill somebody and show up at the house and she'd say, would you like some Sarah burgers, Like, let's sit down, I'll make you some burgers. By the way, she made the greatest hamburgers, by far, bar none. There's just no question about that. They were nicknamed Sarah burgers. Everybody in the area knows that. And that was a staple part of anybody's diet that came to the first line, announced or otherwise. But she had some empathy, and I will share just this one story and then I'll shut her down. And I'm not going to mention any names. Let's just say it was 40 plus years ago. And it was one of those nights, late fall, early winter, when the fog, when the fog hits and it's so thick you can't see your hand in front of your face. And we're driving home. Okay, I was out with the headers, okay? So, now Kevin never came back with us because he always had to get home to his own bed. But we're rolling down. Now, one of the headers was driving, okay? It wasn't me, so you can pretty much figure out who it was. And the way he was driving was, you had to open the door and look for the line in the road as we were driving. That's how thick the fog was. Now, in the car was about 5 or 6 people, and there was a few ladies, and we were heading back to the first line to continue the party. And anyways, we had a great night. It was a lot of fun and carried on for a while as we did in those early 80s days. And Sat, the next morning, as she was going around and seeing either extra vehicles, we're always checking to see who made it home, who didn't, because sometimes I didn't always make it home, and she'd have to phone around, has anybody seen Liam? And I'd show up a couple days later. But she just popped her head in. Sean had the greatest room, right? That attic. When you turned that attic into a bedroom, it was quite the, well, it was a den of iniquity, really. But, so she popped her head in and saw there were, you know, some extra people, including not all guys. And so I was one of the first up and sat at the kitchen table with her, and she said, so what's going on there? I said, Sat, you know, these ladies were in real distress. And we took care of it last night, and we thought the safest thing to do would be to bring it back to the first line. And she thought, you know, this is how gullible she was. Like, she believed it hook, line, and sinker, and just said, the compassion that you and your friends showed me that night. That's a level of empathy and kindness and compassion that maybe most mothers don't have, you know. I think some others might have reacted a little bit different at that time, but I'll finish on that note. I'll just say this, these last 4+ years, I don't regret one single second of it.
Bravo, Liam.
Well done.
Hold on. It was, you know, as a son, to have that opportunity, because we lost Dad. I'm older than Dad right now. You know, he was 65. That's kind of weird, and it's weird not being able to talk to Sab right now, because there's such steady contact for so long, but man, oh man, what a ride. And you came with us for most of it, so thank you. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you. Please stand.